Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well on this marvellous midweek hump. That's it, baby. It's a midweek hump. And we all love a midweek hump, don't we? And you're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. And in this little video here, which is video 1 of 2, yeah, that's right, 1 of 2, we're talking about a very, very lazy report. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about Lazy Masquerade. Now, Lazy Masquerade is a channel that delves deep into true crime. They do videos of the macabre. Yeah, those sort of things. I listened to a few of these. I used to listen to Lazy Masquerade. You know when you like listening to things at bedtime, you can't really sleep, so you have like background stories running. Used to do that, but then I realised that he had an ad like every 2 or 3 minutes in them, and when you're trying to get to sleep, ads that seem to shout at you because they think you left the room when they're on doesn't help you sleep. Do you notice that? TVs do that as well. You have the TV at a nice volume, and then the volume goes up about 50 dB when the ads come on. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, Lazy Masquerade, because he done a video a couple of days ago about the Idaho 4 case, and I was excited. I was excited because, again, I was a fan of Lazy Masquerade. Not ads, but I was a fan of him. And I was intrigued because some other people had also reached out to me and said, you've got to watch this. You've got to watch it. And I thought, do you know what? Lazy Masquerade is usually good. He's good at diving. He's good at, getting into the mud and talking about these cases. And what did I find? What did I find? I hear you say. Well, let's just say I weren't pleased. I weren't pleased at all because this was a hatchet job. Now, at the time of watching that video, there'd been 200,000 people that had watched it. 200,000 people. Now, I'm going to show you this. I'm not going to show you the video because I'll get struck down with furious anger. All that, you know that jazz. So this is Lazy Masquerade. And the disturbing timeline of Idaho student murders. Now, some of this is very well done. He does the video very well. And there lies the problem, because the information contained within it, some of it's crap, but incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Because there are people in the comments who live in this area. They talk about the fact that Lazy Masquerade, someone I like, I listen to, I watch, covering a local crime. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. So excited. And I'm glad you get it. Yeah. So in this video, let's just touch on some things that he gets wrong. Or when I say he gets wrong, he talks about things that are yet to be proven as fact. So it talks about the white Hyundai Elantra, for instance. This white Hyundai Elantra travelling from Pullman all the way over to Moscow, Idaho. Well, let's just say that has not yet been proven that that car that leaves Pullman is the same car that ends up in Moscow, Idaho. And in fact, you could argue that an FBI agent would seemingly determine that it's not Brian Kohberger's car at all by saying that this is a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, which is not the car that Brian Kohberger drives. But that's by and by, because again, that's got to be proven, and we know that at the moment is a bone of contention. He later goes on to say, categorically, he brings it up on the screen, Brian Kohberger purchased a K-bar sheath from Amazon. Please tell me, where in the Blue Monkeys bullshit does it say that Brian Kohberger unequivocally purchased a knife sheath from Amazon? I've gone over this countless times. Yes, law enforcement put a search warrant into Amazon to see whether he had indeed purchased one. We said this before. Can you remember when we said they can't just ask for his entire purchase history because some of that is not relevant to this case. He may have been buying nipple tassels and butt plugs. They have nothing to do with the Idaho 4 case. So they have to ask for things that are relevant to their investigation. Did he buy a K-bar knife sheath? Did he buy a K-bar knife, for instance? And let me just add that at this present time, we are not even certain as to whether the K-bar knife was indeed the knife that was used, or even if it was the only knife that was used. And if you take into consideration, I've said this countless times, what Kathy Mabbott said, it would lead you to believe that that's not necessarily the case. Anyway, next, he seemingly pushes that Bryan Kohberger is stalking these victims, says that he had been messaging them on social media accounts, actually putting on the screen what he'd sent to them. What he had sent to them. Now, I don't know whether he has actually been following this case enough to understand that it's been stated that Bryan Kohberger wasn't stalking these victims. He hadn't had any contact with them at all. There is no connection between Bryan Kohberger and these victims. Okay? So that is just a flat out lie. That is wrong. So lazy and wrong. Laziness because you clearly haven't done your homework enough to understand that there are things that you're saying that simply aren't true. And the statements are they're just lies. They're just lies. But like I say, the video is good. And that's a problem because it looks convincing. And while I was watching this, I was thinking about what the court, what the trial will look like. What will the trial actually look like? And ultimately, we know that it's about stories. It's about emotion. It's about what side can provide the most compelling argument and the compelling story. Now, the burden of proof lies on the prosecution. They have to tell a story of what happened. And what Lazy Masquerade did, he proved how good you can be at providing a story that sounds convincing, will really pull on the heartstrings of the locals. We see that in the comments of this video. By the way, the comments of this video are just an absolute clusterfuck. And it is one of those. He talks about the DNA in this, and he sells the DNA incredibly well. Incredibly well. He even talks about the fact that they had pulled Bryan Kohberger up to specifically seek a gander at his hands, a look at his hands. When it's been released recently that at the point where they were pulled over, they didn't even know who Bryan Kohberger was. He was already in Pennsylvania. Talks about the plates and made it look like the swapping of the plates was done in a nefarious way. When in fact, this goes to further push that Bryan Kohberger had all intentions of returning back to where he had come from. Which there seems to be a little bit of a topic going on at the moment with respect of Bryan Kohberger losing his position in Washington State University. I think it was Jules who recently said, if Bryan Kohberger lost his job after the fact, then how can that potentially be a catalyst to what happened? We're yet to know that if he was fired from his job. We don't know that. And it would seem that all the evidence points to the fact that he wasn't fired from his job at all. In fact, they took precautionary measures. They even literally said, with regards to conduct and charges brought for conduct, meaning, look, if this goes the other way and it's proven that you are not anything to do with that, you can come back. They left the door open. That's written in black and white. Go and check out Jaws of All Trades if you haven't seen it. But again, this was somebody who is very good at telling stories. He's got a massive following of around 1.7 million people, and he tells a story. And he tells it well. He tells it like a prosecution will tell a jury. And that is concerning, because if you sell a story in a certain way, that's what people remember. That's what people think. And even though the burden of proof lies with the prosecution, there is a burden of trying to break what people think And if that story is good enough, if it's compelling enough, if it tugs at the heartstrings enough, if it seems realistic enough, it's very hard to get that out. And it does depend then upon factual information to make that story look wrong. And that's why it's so important that Ann Taylor and her team gets everything they need. When they're talking about discovery, getting everything. That's why this is so important. Because there is a story coming. And again, and I'll say this one last time, Lazy Masquerade at this stage has no more information than what we have. Nothing at all. But he managed to put a story together that looked convincing, it looked true, effective, and devastating against Bryan Kohberger. But the vast majority of it was built on speculation and incorrect statements. But people have been convicted in the past on circumstantial evidence. And if the defense don't get everything that they need, then this is going to go down that route. And in answer to my question that I put out before people yesterday, Bryan Kohberger and the exoneration, can it be done? Well, that lays down to whether Ann Taylor can get everything she needs and whether the defense are gonna have everything, every single thing that the prosecution currently are hiding. And why are they hiding it? I believe they're hiding it because this is indeed a circumstantial evidence case, and they know that they can sell a story. And if the defense then don't have the tools in their arsenal to fight that story's going to stick, and that story's going to convict. Just like Lazy Masquerade did. Let me know down below what you think. If you haven't seen it, go head over there and let me know what you think to that video. I'll catch you all in the next one.